belong to the earth. This we know. The earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. This we know. All things are connected like the blood which unites one family. All things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons and daughters of the earth. We did not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. These words are attributed to Chief Noah Self. Good morning. I'm Don Dickey, a member of this congregation. It's my privilege to welcome you here on this wonderful, crisp Sunday morning. So be aware that for the information to let you know what's going on, we have our weekly email blasts, our monthly forum. We have a schedule here in the order of service. And do take a look at the bulletin boards around the church. People do a wonderful job of communicating what's going on in RE and other parts of this organization. And now I want to bring to the pulpit the newest member of our staff, the membership coordinator, Reverend Josh Paskowitz. And if you find his last name to be a bit of a tongue twister, he answers very graciously to Josh.
Well, good morning, church. It's lovely to be with you today as we celebrate Thanksgiving with our annual potluck following the service and as we welcome new members today. But before we get to that, it's always good to welcome our visitors. So do we have any members who have met visitors this morning that you'd be willing to introduce? All right. Well, do we have any visitors who would be kind enough to introduce themselves this morning? Please. Welcome. Oh, wonderful. Well, welcome.
Hey, I'm Jess, and I'm from Kansas City.
Great. Well, welcome everyone. It's wonderful to see some new faces. Oh, we have another one. Did I miss it? Back here.
Hi, I'm actually from here.
Great. Well, I am to remind you that for visitors and folks that may not be reminded of this, usually we do have 2 emergency exits up here and exits in the back as well in the event that you might need those. And otherwise, I'd like to remind everybody that myself and other members of the membership committee are always available before and after service at the visitors table in the lobby to answer any questions that you might have. And today, following the service, as I mentioned, we do have our regularly scheduled annual Thanksgiving potluck. So whether you've brought something or not, please do join us in Conover following the service. And for new members, we have the new member orientation at 12:45 in the library. And we'd be happy as the membership committee to welcome you to the library, and we'll move through the line and get some food that we can eat before we begin the orientation, where we're playing Stump the Minister today. So welcome and thanks for being here.
Oh, Good morning and welcome to this gathering. Welcome new members today and members of long years standing. It is good to be together. We are glad that you are here. For we need one another. We need one another when we mourn and would be comforted. We need one another when we are in trouble and afraid. We need one another when we are in despair or in temptation and need to be recalled to our best selves once again. We need one another when we would accomplish some great purpose and cannot do it alone. We need one another in the hour of success, when we look for someone to share our triumphs. We need one another in the hour of defeat, when with encouragement we might endure and stand again. We need one another when we come to die and would have gentle hands to prepare us for that journey. All our lives, we are in need of others, and others are in need of us. This is the reason of cities, of homes, of assemblies in the houses of fellowship. We need one another, and it is good to be together. As we kindle our chalice this morning, the darkness in the world and the darkness within the human spirit are all too present before us. Yet we remember and proclaim the light that shines in the darkness, in persistent witness to human possibility and the world that might yet be. And that light, all the darkness of fear and hatred and violence, has never and can never overcome.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Charlotte Rainey, and I light this chalice for justice, equity, and compassion in human relations.
Thank you, Charlotte. Now I'm going to invite you to stand and join together in our opening hymn. We'll reserve our covenant to speak together a little later with our new members.
Praise the
Now thank you. Yeah. We're going to invite the children to help us with a litany. We've done this before, but this year we have a new twist because there's a sung response, and Anthony's going to help us learn that, I think. Yes. In this season of celebration and gratitude, let us give thanks for a harvest of friendship, the bounty of people who give such flavor to our lives.
For the children who are entrusted to their parents all the time and entrusted to us on this church on Sundays,
though they grow like weeds, and the wind too soon blows them away from us, may they forgive us our clumsy cultivation and fondly remember where their roots are.
For funny friends who are as silly as Brussels sprouts, and as amusing and bizarre as artichokes.
For friends who are always there for us, as unpretentious as cabbages, as subtle and accommodating as squash.
For serious friends with minds as complex as cauliflowers and thoughts as intricate as onions.
For handsome friends who are as gorgeous and shining as eggplants and elegant and orderly as a row of corn.
For everyday friends as plain and nourishing as potatoes, and who, like carrots and turnips, can be counted on to see us through the winter.
For contentious friends with staying power, who, like peppers and cucumbers, keep reminding us that we've had them, and even those as endless and sometimes overwhelming as zucchini.
So glad you got that. For feisty friends as tart as lemons and as distinctive as dill, and crotchety friends as pungent as ginger and emphatic as scallions.
For generous friends with smiles as bright as apples and hearts as sweet as strawberries, as abundant and
Now it is with rejoicing that we have the opportunity this morning formally to welcome into membership those who have joined the All Souls congregation during the past several months. Ours is a free faith, and our church is not based upon dogma or upon creeds, but rather upon the thoughtful and freely given commitment of mind and heart in community. Into this circle of shared search, collective counsel, and mutual support, these people have elected to enter. May this community fulfill in practice their best hopes. May their wisdom and energy be generously shared here. And may we welcome them with gladness and with open hearts. Will the following people please come forward when I call your names to sign the membership book and receive our welcome. And those who are with us we'll hear a little bit about. So the first of those is Josh Baskevich. Do you want to tell us about yourself?
I'm okay, but we can talk about Zach.
Okay. And his partner is Zachary Bale.
Yeah, Zach is a Buddhist monk who ordinarily is helping with religious education in the morning, but first he's at Unity Temple on the Plaza teaching the Buddhist kids, so you can always find him helping children.
Come on up here and just sign the book. And then we have Aaron Bierge and Kelly Bierge, who I guess are not here.
Yeah, we had some people on our list that didn't.
Okay, all right. Then we have Bernie Brennan and Rebecca Brennan.
So for those of you that haven't met the Brennans, they're originally from Idaho and they moved to Kansas City about 10 years ago. They have 2 sons who we just sang out, Zach and Aaron. And as a family, they enjoy Royals and Chiefs games and watching movies together. And it was at
Stay up here, Josh. Stay.
It was at the beginning of this year that they began to question the faith of their upbringing, and those questions are what led them to Unitarian Universalism and to All Souls in particular, which they say they found to be a wonderful and welcoming spiritual environment.
Lovely. Rachel Carter.
So Rachel lives in Brookside and has passed our church many times on her way home from work. And it was in September that she decided to finally stop in for a service, which coincided with our Reverend Kendall's return from summer break. So she says it was that service that hooked her. She found solace in everything that happened, from the warm and welcoming congregation that she met that befriended her to the water ceremony. All of these things made it feel like All Souls was her long-lost home, and she is happy to have found a place that will support her and enhance her in her spiritual journey and her process of self-actualization.
Excellent. Lana Dealey. I had to remember to look back to the choir, too. Okay. We'll have to learn more about Lana later on. Candy Gray. She's not here. Okay. Tommy Graves. No, he's
Tommy
here.
Graves is here, yeah. So Tommy Graves is a significant other of Marley Murphy, who most of us know, and he has joined recently during the Connections Fair, and I learned that yesterday he celebrated his 70th birthday.
Right. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Tommy. Happy birthday to you. Yeah. We also have Alex Hall and Allison Quinn. They're not here. Okay. Marilee Harrison. Okay.
All right, so Marilee first attended All Souls when she last lived in Kansas City, which was about 2001, and she found it to be at that time a warm and welcoming place during her transition away from the Mennonite faith and practice. And so as she came back to Kansas City this year, it was a natural progression for her to reconnect with All Souls with membership. And she believes that the values that we live out here in the community of All Souls are a good match for her work as a humanist celebrant. And she appreciates our emphasis on social justice, service, and compassion, and looks forward to frequent opportunities to collaborate with us as a member of our church along those lines.
Excellent. Jamie Jackson.
I don't think so.
Okay. Carol Jacobson.
She is out of town.
She's out of town. Okay. Ivory Karamitros. She's not here. Okay. All right. Mary Lindsay. Okay. Have to let her out.
And Mary Lindsay is not on my list, so we'll have to make extra effort to get to know your
Yeah,
details
all right.
as well.
Like Lana, I sing in the choir.
There you go.
In the choir,
That's
okay.
right. That's right. Anita Malott and Julie Kaler.
Not on my list.
Okay. Matt Menger.
He's out of town.
Okay. Allie O'Doran. There she is.
There we go. So Allie was dedicated in the First Unitarian Church of Kensington 34 years ago, and she has held our common UU beliefs in her heart ever since. Having lived all over the country and worked all over the country, she's finally chosen Kansas City to be her home, and she shares her life and home with her mom, Carol, who some of you have met, her partner, Stacy, and their boxer, Arnold.
Oh, Arnold, great. Jonathan Ross is here. Yeah,
There he is. So John's uncle introduced him to our church about 2 years ago, and he's a pretty regular attendee from that time, I understand it. And he's formally become a member just in September of this year, and he appreciates our church's liberal approach to social justice issues and politics, and he welcomes opportunities to further plug into service opportunities with our church.
Great. Jake Serber. Jake's
I don't think he's here this morning.
Nathan Strickland.
No, thanks.
No? Okay. Carol White.
There she is.
All right.
So Carol is a native of California. She was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, and she moved here in April to live with her daughter, who we just introduced. A longtime UU, Carol is a vegan and an animal lover. She enjoys dancing, listening to music, and the arts in general. She has a passion for travel and experiencing other cultures, and she says that she came to All Souls looking for a warm and welcoming heaven, which she's happy to say that she has indeed found here.
Oh, neat. And finally, B. Williams. Is B here today? There he is. All right.
All right. Well, B told me this morning that he was on a long and adventurous search for a church home. It was arduous indeed, he said. And he feels that he found a genuine and caring community here. He appreciates our focus on social justice issues and especially appreciates Reverend Kendall's sermons.
B. Fine. Otherwise, we'll keep calling you up here until you do, so you know. So now I would invite the new members in the spirit of dedication to join in speaking the words of commitment that will be on the screen in 1 second. There you go. And together we will say, "This is now my religious community. It is composed of people, both like me and different. Together we make it what it is. I want this community to be a source of light and wholeness. It will be if I am. It will make generous gifts if I am a generous giver. It will be a friendly and welcoming place if I remember to reach out. It will be a responsible steward of resources if I participate responsibly in it. It will share beauty and challenging thought with other people if I invite them. It will be a community of fearlessness and faith, of loyalty and love, if I, who make it what it is, am filled with these. As I become a member of this congregation, I dedicate myself to the task of becoming all the things I want my church to be." And now I would invite the members of the congregation to please join in welcoming our fellow new members by affirming with them the words of our covenant. Together we say, "Goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another." All right, good. Stay standing for a second. Into this covenant community of memory and promise, so dedicated and so understood, these new members are now enfolded. May this congregation nurture and challenge them, offering comfort and guidance and calling forth the best within them. May they, in their turn, bring to this institution energy, vision, and commitment, that it may become ever more fully the community we have all hoped for it to be. And together we say, "We rejoice in the promise of new friendship and growth, and a glen pledge to walk together in the way of truth, compassion, and freedom. May the splendid venture of life continue to be celebrated faithfully here and in this community may the human spirit own an ample home. Will you join me now in welcoming our new members? Yay! You can go sit down.
Good morning. I am not Joseph Davis. I am Carrie Bader. I'm the president of the Board of Trustees, and I am filling in for Joseph. I'm thinking of the things I'm thankful for this time of year. I'm thankful for this church. I'm thankful for the people who gather here. I'm thankful for the religious education program, which has taught my daughter kindness, and it feels like it's getting tougher to teach that sometimes. I'm thankful for the teens who make me feel cool by talking to me, but never let me feel too cool. You need an ego check every once in a while. I'm thankful to have family here. I'm thankful that each of you have also become my family. I'm thankful for the support the church gives me. I'm thankful for the challenges it gives me. I'm thankful that it asks me questions that I have to think about and try to come up with an answer, and many times can't. So, how do I show my thanks? A couple different ways. I give a lot of time. I teach down in the teen classroom. I do whatever Judith tells me to do because she asks. And I serve on the board, and there is time involved in that. I also give money, and it's never enough. It's never what I want to be able to give the church. It certainly doesn't equal the value that the church gives me. But I give what I can, and I know many of you also do. So today, as we pass around our baskets, I ask you to consider what the church gives to you as you put your money in, and how you might show thanks. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
Thanksgiving.
Conscientious Objector by Edna St. Vincent Millay. I shall die, but that is all that I shall do for death. I hear him leading his horse out of the stall. I hear the clatter on the barn floor. He is in haste. He has business in Cuba, business in the Balkans, many calls to make this morning. But I will not hold the bridle while he cinches the girth. He may mount by himself. I will not give him a leg up. Though he flick my shoulders with his whip, I will not tell him which way the fox ran. With his hoof on my breast, I will not tell him where the black boy hides in the swamp. I shall die, but that is all I shall do for death. I am not on his payroll. I will not tell him the whereabouts of my friends, nor of my enemies either. Though he promised me much, I will not map him the route to any man's door. Am I a spy in the land of the living, that I should deliver men to death? Brother, the password and the plans of our city are safe with me. Never through me shall you be overcome.
Brother, sister, the password and the plans of our city are safe with me. Never by me shall you be overcome. It is always a delight to welcome new members into this covenant community, to enfold these beautiful folks who have found us in so many different ways into the memory and promise of our faith. It has usually been a fun occasion, a celebration of who they are and who we are, an affirmation of our shared dreams. Usually, it takes an effort to make us all remember that this is a serious and consequential promise that we make to one another, that it has both a known cost and perhaps an unknown cost, that it will change our lives. It's not difficult to be aware of that today. Indeed, it may be difficult to be aware of anything else. What we know for sure today, more deeply perhaps than ever before, is that we need each other. The only hope for the values on which our community and our hopes are founded is for us to stick together, to be united in the face of hatred, fear, violence, and abusive power. The isolated conscience is going to get ground to dust under the engines of an authoritarian state for the next little while. It is only by lifting our voices and presenting our bodies together that we will be able to protect anything we cherish and discover the path, if there is one, by which renewed justice and compassion might ultimately prevail. And so it seems appropriate on this day when we gather in these precious new ones and give thanks for them and for all the good in our lives, that we take a few moments to examine the role of the church and how we might be about the business of sustaining one another in the days and years soon to come. It seems to me that we are going to need some spiritual survival strategies, and that is precisely the task of this community and all those like it in the world, to remind us how to be human and how to hold on to our integrity and our wholeness, which are two names for the same thing in the end, as we move into the right-wing political hegemony that lies before us. It has been argued, and no doubt will be again, that the role of the church is to be a sanctuary in troubled times. Some would say that it should be a place where conflicts are set aside, and the suffering of ourselves and others is commended to the attention of a higher power, but not dwelt upon. A place of peace and beauty, where we can retreat from the ugliness around us and find respite from our fears and our labors. It's a lovely image. But I want to suggest that we understand the concept of sanctuary a little differently. A sanctuary is a place for holy things, and that is not necessarily a safe space. This church community and this church building is a sanctuary for our values and our lives, because those are sacred. It is not a sanctuary for our privileges, our prejudices, our fears of change, or our fragility in the face of moral challenge, because those things are not holy. They do not offer more abundant life or help to create a better world. Indeed, they hold us back from the inner and outer connections that move toward wholeness and the vision of the possible community that we seek together. A church that does not challenge you to grow into the courage of your gifts and to find a way to bless the world with those gifts is not doing its job. A church that protects you from the pain of the world and your role in creating and healing that pain is like the false prophets of the Hebrew scriptures who went around saying, "Peace, peace, it's okay," when it was not okay and there was no peace. I believe that what we have built and are building here is a sanctuary, a place where the holiest truth and ideals that we know can be honored and guarded. It is not impossible that at some point it might need to be a place where human life itself is honored and guarded. We shall see. It is a place where we can find the comfort of connection with our fellow pilgrims, with those who with us are guardians of a humane and compassionate society. It is a place where we give each other solace, encouragement, and celebration. But it is not a place, and it never will be under my leadership, to turn away from the real problems that confront us as a human race, or to find protection for our denials, willful ignorance, or wishful thinking, just so you know. And know this too, as I am finite and fallible like all human beings, like you, there are limits to my courage and my vision. I will be trusting you to hold me up and call me out, to challenge my fear, my unawareness, my small-mindedness and despair. I need you to be here for me as much as I am here for you, because this only works if we are in it together. So, some spiritual survival tips. With much gratitude and indebtedness to my fellow ministers and our conversations of the past week, both in person and online. First, as stated by Reverend Jim Gertmanian, my now retired Congregationalist colleague from Minneapolis, feel what you feel for as long as you need to feel it. If you are like me, you are grieving, as well as perhaps frightened and angry. A number of well-meaning people have tried to encourage us, including President Obama, dearly as I love him, to set a time limit to these painful emotions and then decide to get over it so that we can move into active resistance. You may be offering similar advice yourself. And it's understandable to want to compartmentalize our discomfort that neatly. But that's not the way grief works. And it's not the way that we do the work of grief. What I find instead is that I have times of being relatively coherent and all right, and then I will be once again swept over by a huge wave of crushing sadness, regret, and despair. By now, that cycle has actually become a little less bewildering and debilitating just because I'm getting more familiar with it. And I do know from experience that, like all intense emotion, it will not, cannot last forever. I also know that these feelings are real, that they represent a truth about my experience of the world that I cannot change merely by wishing them away. One of the characteristics of spiritually mature people is that they are self-aware, reflective about the nature of their inner experience and how their actions are affected by their perceptions and desires. To practice that kind of self-awareness now is a survival strategy. This election was determined by people who acted on what they were feeling with little examination of those impulses or their implications. That is the tendency that makes a demagogue plausible. We need to stay aware of the pain we are experiencing. Sadness, outrage, fear, or otherwise we will act it out without thinking. And that will not help anyone, ourselves or others. The Buddhist tradition has a meditation practice called Tonglen, which involves breathing in or recognizing and accepting the pain of the world, and breathing back out peace, comfort, well-being, love. As with most such ideas, I tend to interpret this metaphorically. And what it represents to me is the practice of choosing to stay in the presence of painful truth without succumbing to panic. Although I will confess I am tempted by the t-shirt that says, "Can we panic now?" I know that panic and despair will not serve us or our ideals in this moment. We value the truth, and what you are feeling is a part of your truth about the world. Feel what you feel in awareness and compassion for yourself, for as long as those feelings are true, no matter what anyone else says. This does not mean that it's okay to curl up in a little ball and let your normal responsibilities go. None of us gets to do that. As with all varieties of grief, life goes on, and even heavy hearts must function. But strength for the long road ahead lies in fully processing the truth of now, not burying the feelings that will only rise up to haunt us and make us less competent in the future. The second strategy was set forth by the activist Angela Davis in her speech at the University of Chicago the night after the election. How do we begin to recover from this shock, she asked, by experiencing and building and rebuilding and consolidating community. Community is the answer. We need to connect and covenant more intensely than ever before with the people who share our pain and our values, and especially across the intersections of oppression and vulnerability. As Reverend Gertmanian says, find the people who are in danger and go stand next to them. So let me tell you something, my free-thinking friends. We who describe ourselves as heirs of the Enlightenment, as rationalists, have a religious discipline of submitting to the truth. If it can be proven by observation, experience, or reason, we are obligated to acknowledge reality. We may not like it, but if it's a fact, our faith calls on us to admit it and be governed by it. As Francis Bacon said back in the 16th century, nature, in order to be commanded, must be obeyed. Our religious tradition calls upon us to know and obey the laws of nature so that we may use them for our benefit. We are a people who surrender to the truth. Another name for one who submits to the truth is Muslim. And so, if it comes to pass at any time that my government seeks to create a registry of those in this country who call themselves Muslim, I will sign up. I am not the keeper of your conscience, but I invite you to consider doing so as well. The people of Denmark, led by their national conscience and their king, did many remarkable acts of heroism to save the Jews of their country as the Nazi war machine bore down on them. Alas, the story of them all wearing the yellow star to identify as Jewish is apocryphal, but that doesn't mean that it's not a good idea. And I continue to think that wearing our safety pins is a good idea for two reasons. One, the idea seems to have gotten under the skin of some Trump supporters who are referring to them as diaper pins in order to try to discredit the idea. I'd say that means it's working. Two, my pin started a conversation last Sunday with a clerk at the store where I was shopping, a woman of color who thanked me for wearing it and lamented that she had not been able to find one when she was getting dressed for work that morning. As I was walking away, it occurred to me, I could give her mine, as I had any number at home. And when I turned around and did that, she was serving another customer who wanted to know what wearing the pin was all about. The three of us connected in a way that would not otherwise have happened, and felt less alone in our struggle with fear. Anything that we can do to be publicly present with those who are vulnerable is our work right now. At this moment, it probably isn't going to cost us very much, but it's good practice and a good habit for times when there might be more than social awkwardness at stake. I'm reminded that in the very earliest days of the American UU partner church relationships with the Hungarian Unitarian congregations in Romania, the most important function of those visits was sheer visibility. What they needed more than anything else was folks who were paying attention on an international basis and would notice if their villages simply got wiped out. Even financial help was secondary to that witness to their existence, and partly because we were watching, They are still there today. Everything that connects us strengthens our hands and our hearts. It is good to have these newest members finding the power of our covenant and adding their voices. I think it may literally at some point come down to whether we are willing to stand by and watch or intervene as our neighbors are taken away. So we need to know them, and they need to know us. We need to have each other's backs. We may die, but that is all we have to do for death. We do not need to map him the route to anyone's door. And indeed, we can meet him at that door with whatever resistance is within us to raise. It was by such small and seemingly useless gestures that our spiritual ancestors have driven back the tides of power from age to age before us. Not by winning, usually, but by steady witness. There are many stories to be told about that witness, with many different strategies and many different outcomes. I was reminded this week about the danger of having only one story, that a variety of stories can all be true, and that the more stories we know, the more resources we have. Diversity is one of our core values, and that means knowing and living out of many different stories. The Nazi Holocaust is one story that has my attention at the moment, but there are others that we should be paying attention to. The story of Reconstruction and redemption in the American South after the Civil War, to name one. The story of the dialogue between the Athenians and the island nation of Melos in 416, before the Common Era, for the classics students among you. The story about the great statue of Ozymandias, King of Kings, by the poet Shelley. Stories don't have to end well or make us feel good in order to be instructive and true. They give us glimpses of how to make meaning out of our suffering, and sometimes that's the best we can do. Other stories can inspire hope and give us clues about how some people have triumphed over their adversity. So keep telling stories. Keep thinking, this reminds me of the time that... Don't try to talk other people into your story, but find out about theirs. We need all the stories now because rigid is what we are up against, and creative diversity is going to be part of how we fight back. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, we need to be kind, everywhere, always, to everyone. Here, in this community where goodwill is the spirit of our church, to ourselves and to each other, be kind. That doesn't mean letting other people hurt you, but it means trying to protect yourself without violence if you can. Be kind. Remember that rage and fear of the kind you might have been experiencing or come to find yourself experiencing can make you feel like you want to hurt someone or something or yourself. Notice that impulse and breathe through it and let it go. Look for kindness. Ask for kindness. Teach kindness. Offer kindness. Learn how to de-escalate confrontational encounters, to intervene on behalf of the vulnerable. Be kind, especially to those at risk for oppression, because other people will take their lead from your example. And if enough of us are actively modeling kindness wherever we go, kindness will be there to meet us. Be kind, even to those who disagree with you. Think about how to refuse to comply with the demands of evil while remaining kind. Because here is the truth and the ground of whatever hope there is. Legislation and the acts of government can only change how we are allowed to treat each other. They cannot change how we are inclined to treat each other. Liberals have certainly learned the reality of this over the years. We can only hope to control how people behave, and not always that. We have never been able to enforce more open or justice-oriented hearts. Well, let those who would empower separation find the same lesson. They may give us permission to hate, to crush people with less privilege, to blame and demonize the other, but they can't make us do it. Be kind. We have lost the authority to enforce our values upon and through the state. Who knows to what extent or for how long? We have not lost the ability to make those values real in our covenant communities and in our lives, and perhaps to astonish a cynical world with their enduring power. We shall die, all of us, one day or another, but that is all we are required to do for death. Let us determine together that we shall not be spies in the land of the living to deliver men and women to death. Let us rather commit to one another that we shall be, now and in the days to come, messengers of life, heralds of its most abundant possibilities for kinship, freedom, justice, and peace, just as we have always said. Welcome to our new companions on the journey. We are grateful for you, for your stories and your strength, for your kindness, for these and all those we love, and for the call to build the common good together. We give thanks. Let's stand and sing. Me too. We extinguish this flame but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fires of commitment. For all these we carry in our minds and hearts until we are together again. And so may the future that we envision lead us from the terror of death to more abundant life, from falsehood to truth. May it lead us from despair to hope, from fear to trust, from hate to love, from war to peace. In its light, may peace and gratitude fill our hearts, our world, our universe. So be it.
Were you leading that cheer in the back? Excellent. Thank you.
Russell Stover's.